Is he potentially a psychopath? I would say yes. They are easy victims. They are easy to abduct. He belongs to the top league of dangerousness.
How closely does Christian B's profile fit the profile of Madeleine McCann's abductor?
Well, he matches the profile of a person who would be capable of abducting and potentially killing a child. But in the case of Madeleine McCann and Christian B, I see just 4 circumstantial pieces of evidence. First, he was there. He was in Praia da Luz. He was probably close to that crime scene, but these cell sites can have different sizes and can go up to 2 or 3 kilometers, so just being there is definitely not enough. Second point is he absolutely matches the profile, his criminal record, and also in chats he allegedly fantasized, which I saw myself, about crimes which are so horrible that I don't want to go into detail here, but if this was really written by him, then he absolutely matches the profile. The third circumstantial piece of evidence is that he is also known for hotel burglaries, and Madeleine McCann was abducted potentially from a hotel room, so maybe this started out as a burglary and turned into something worse. And the fourth circumstantial piece of evidence is he showed some suspicious behavior after the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. He made a phone call, he re-registered his car, he left the country, but all of this is nothing but a good theory. The question is, what kind of real evidence is known? And the answer is almost nothing. So does he match the profile? Absolutely. But just matching the profile of someone who would be capable of doing something like this is not forensic evidence.
Is there anything in his profile that would exclude him from being Madeleine McCann's abductor?
There's one thing where many people argued this excludes him because he has been in prison for rape, and the victim was an elderly woman. So some people say, well, if he is into elderly women, then it does not really match the profile of someone who would abduct and potentially kill a child for sexual or fantasy-driven motivation. But I would disagree, because especially when we talk about the profiles of some serial killers, they are going for easy victims. Why? Because their motive is feeling power over a defenseless victim. So they choose easy victims. This can be animals, this can be children, this can be elderly people, this can be sometimes prostitutes because they are easy to get into the car or to abduct them. So the similarity between the victims is pretty often not the age, but the fact that they are vulnerable or defenseless. They are easy targets from the perspective of the perpetrators.
You talked about the possibility of Madeleine being abducted as part of a burglary. Now, that was the Scotland Yard theory, but we have always used the phrase a burglary gone wrong. You don't agree with that. You say it's a burglary that, for the abductor, got better. Can you just explain what you mean by that?
Well, if we look at his profile and the criminal record and the sexual fantasies which showed at other crime scenes at the past, then probably this was not a burglary gone wrong, but from his perspective, a burglary gone better. Because if it started as a burglary and all of a sudden there is a child that potentially matches absolutely the profile that he pictures in his fantasy or whatever, then from his perspective, it's not a burglary that gone wrong, it's just a burglary that turned into something better. But again, do we have real evidence besides knowing that he was close to that scene and matches the profile? The answer is, at least the prosecutor's office does not tell us what they have.
He's not been charged over Madeleine, he's not been arrested for Madeleine, he's not even been questioned about Madeleine McCann, so why shouldn't he be freed?
Well, there is one distinction which I think is very important in this case. Is he a bad guy, and does he have a long criminal record? Does he match the profile? Is he potentially a psychopath? I would say, based on the evidence in other cases, yes. But is he guilty in the Madeleine McCann case? This is a completely different question. But for most people, like cognitively, because he was there and he matches the profile so perfectly, people say, oh, he must be the one. But in a democracy, this is not how it works. And being a bad guy and being guilty in the Madeleine McCann case are two very different questions. And I would answer them in a very different way.
What danger does he pose as a free man?
Well, I'm a big believer in second chances, but I'm not that much of a big believer in 10th chances. So if you commit a crime and you do it again and again and again and again, then you need to ask yourself, like, why should we believe that it stops now? But he has been in prison for quite some time, and he has been in public for quite some time. So I wish and hope that also he realizes that he can maybe now live a different life anonymously in some place, and hopefully stop committing crimes. Not just crimes against people, also crimes against property, because he was known for committing crimes in both categories, yeah.
But can somebody like him just stop? Can somebody like him learn their lesson, as we like to say, and just go back to what we might call a normal life?
Well, there were many parts of his profile which somehow resemble psychopathy. If you look at his criminal record, you find out this is like the handbook perfect example of someone who resembles these points. Can they change? Can it stop? The answer is yes. There is some evidence that people, when they age, when they are getting older, that they are committing less crimes. So pretty often you say if someone did not kill by the age of 26, they won't do it anymore in the case of sexually driven psychopathic crimes. So pretty often when they get older, they commit less crimes, or sometimes maybe also if they start a family or whatever, there are things in life which can change your behavior. But what is the cause? Is it because he learned a lesson? I don't think so, because then why didn't he learn the lesson in the crimes and the punishments he had before? But when people are getting older, they can sometimes stop committing these kind of crimes. So I would not say that it's impossible, but in his case, I'm also a little bit surprised that he will be free. And also the prosecutor's office made a very clear statement. They said in public on television, we have strong evidence that our suspect killed Madeleine McCann. So they seem to have some evidence that Maddie is dead. We have not seen any evidence so far in public. So far in Portugal and in England, it's treated like a missing person case because there is no body and no parts of a body. So the German prosecutor's office in Braunschweig, they said they have some evidence that she is dead and that he killed her. These are, for a German prosecutor, pretty strong words, but now is showdown. Now is the question, what do they really have? And it does not seem to be so strong, otherwise he wouldn't be free.
The prosecutor says surely he will commit more crimes.
So, given everything I saw in this case so far, and given what is publicly known, and also the psychiatrist who analyzed all the files in detail, he says he poses a great risk, and he said, quote unquote, he belongs to the top league of dangerousness in German. So is it likely that he will commit other crimes? It's hard to give a percentage, but unfortunately it's quite likely. But I hope that also from the public coverage and everything that he has enough of being in prison and that he has enough of being in public. So I hope that he starts a new life anonymously someplace and does not commit crimes anymore.
Okay, perhaps we'll never know what evidence the prosecutor had.
For the parents of Maddie, I think it's a pretty bold thing to say we know that she's dead, but we don't tell you why and probably never will. Making such a bold statement, we know that she's dead and we know that he killed her, and then not revealing it is also kind of unfair concerning him, because he is a bad guy, but in this case we also somehow need to protect his rights, and in this case there is not strong evidence, and I thought for 5 years that they have it and that they are just waiting to gain some more time to get more evidence, but the prosecutor's office need to show what they really have, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to be so strong.
Herr Hofmann, Dankeschön.
Sehr gerne.